Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The first time I saw the message, my husband was standing at the stove in our Buckhead condo, humming an old R&B love song while stirring a pot of slow-cooked oxtails. The kitchen was full of the rich smell of allspice, thyme, and beef, the kind of scent that usually made me feel safe and rooted. I sat at the marble island with an architectural magazine open in front of me, pretending to read. Marquise's new phone lay on the counter between us, black screen down, innocent as a stone. I was just telling myself that this was what a good life looked like when the screen lit up with a soft blue glow. The preview banner slid across the top, and my eyes went there automatically. One line, "Boss, I miss you." The sender was saved as Jasmine Intern. My heartbeat did not race. That had already happened a week earlier when I held our bank statement in my hands and saw her name on transfer after transfer. What I felt now was something colder, sharpened, like a blade that had finally been forged. Marquise, still with his back to me, called over his shoulder in his warm, easy voice and asked me to taste the gravy. He turned briefly, smiling, small lines gathering at the corners of his eyes, and held out a spoon toward me. "Tell me if it needs more salt, Sierra," he said. I stood, walked over, tasted, nodded, and mumbled that it was perfect. Then I went back to my stool, sat down, and my hand slid quietly toward his phone. The passcode was our wedding anniversary. 6 digits that had once made me smile, now feeling like the punchline to a bitter joke. I typed them in. The screen unlocked without resistance. I saw the WhatsApp thread with Jasmine at the top, her unread "Boss, I miss you" sitting there like a challenge. I did not open the thread. I did not need to. I tapped into the reply bar and typed with hands that were steady, if a little cold. "Come over. My wife is not home today." I sent it. The double blue check marks appeared. That tiny symbol felt heavier than wedding vows. I took a screenshot of the brief exchange, shared it to my own phone, then deleted it from Marquise's device, even clearing the recently deleted folder. I placed his phone back exactly where it had been, same angle, same distance from the salt shaker, as if nothing in the world had shifted at all. Inside me, everything had shifted. The bank transfers had already told a story. Small amounts every few days with notes like lunch, gift, for books, all directed to a Jasmine Reed. But the $1,500 labeled birthday from last week had made my hands go numb. I had stared at that line for a long time, remembering my own last birthday. A small dinner, a bouquet, a cake from a bakery around the corner. That was when something in me hardened. I watched Marquise move around the kitchen, rolling up the sleeves of his navy apron and checking the pot again. People always said he was the whole picture. Well-dressed, charming, successful. A man who could chair a meeting at 9 and cook oxtails for his wife at 7. He always liked to say, "Making money is a duty, but cooking for you is a privilege." I used to melt at that sentence. Now it sounded like a practiced line in a performance I had not known I was watching. We sat down at the dining table, just the two of us, with steaming plates in front of us. He served me first, setting the meat carefully on top of the rice, then sat opposite me and started eating with an appetite. He told me a story about a presentation that had impressed the executive team, and another about the Office Fantasy Football League that I barely listened to. Not once did he say the name Jasmine. Not once did he act like anything in his life was out of place. I pushed my food around my plate and finally put my fork down. "I do not have much appetite tonight," I said. Immediately, his face shifted into concern. He stood, came around the table, and touched my forehead with the back of his hand. "You feel a little warm," he said. "Do you want me to make you tea?" The contact of his skin on mine made my stomach lurch. I stepped away and murmured that I only needed water. From the corner of my eye, I saw the clock on the wall. The shorthand was nearly at 7. From downtown to Buckhead, at that hour, it would take Jasmine 30 to 45 minutes if she drove, more if she took the train and an Uber. "My wife is not home today." I had written it knowing exactly what it would do. Temptation like that does not often go unanswered. I pretended to rest in the living room while he cleaned the kitchen. I did not turn on the television. I sat with my back straight, hands clasped in my lap, eyes on the front door. The hum of the dishwasher was the only sound in the condo. In my mind, 2 versions of myself were fighting. One begged for the doorbell to remain silent so I could go back to pretending. The other wanted the bell to ring and tear the lie wide open. Marquise finished cleaning and came through, drying his hands with a towel. "Do you want fruit?" he asked. I shook my head and tried to smile. He sank into the couch across from me, scrolling through his phone, lines of news stories reflecting in his glasses. From time to time, he glanced at me and asked if I was feeling any better. I answered with soft yes, each one measured, each one buying just a little more time. At exactly 8, the doorbell rang. The sound was not loud, but in the silence of the condo, it might as well have been a gunshot. Marquise looked up sharply, then at the clock, then at me. Confusion flickered across his face. "Who could that be at this hour?" he asked, already half rising. "Stay seated," I told him. My voice was calm, but it brooked no disagreement. He froze. I walked toward the front door slowly, heels tapping against the hardwood. Each step felt heavy, like I was walking toward a verdict I already knew. I took one breath, then another, and opened the door. On the threshold stood a young woman in a fitted dress, makeup carefully done, hair in loose waves around her shoulders. In her hands, she held a small box with a single cupcake inside, tied with a ribbon. The moment she saw me, the smile on her face vanished. Her eyes widened, and the color drained from her cheeks. Her fingers tightened on the box until it nearly slipped. She had clearly expected someone else, and I could almost see the fantasy she had built for herself crumbling. Marquise opening the door, pulling her inside, telling her he had missed her too. Instead, she was looking at me, the person whose existence she had decided to ignore. For a few seconds, I said nothing. Silence can be more powerful than a shout. She glanced past me into the condo, then back at my face. Her lips parted as if to stammer an excuse, but no sound came. From behind me, I heard Marquise walking toward the entryway. "Who is it, baby? Why are you taking so long?" he called. The girl jerked like she had been startled awake. I tilted my head slightly and smiled, a small, composed curve of the mouth that even I knew looked more dangerous than any scowl. "Hello, Jasmine," I said clearly. "Are you here to see my husband?" The word husband sat deliberately between us. Her throat worked. She tried to step back, but I shifted just enough into the doorway to block the way. Her eyes were filling with panic. Marquise came up behind me and stopped short when he saw her. His phone slipped from his hand onto the couch behind him with a soft thud. "Jasmine," he whispered. It was a single word, but everything in his voice betrayed him. Guilt, fear, shock. He looked at me, then at her, then back at me as if he could not understand how both of us could exist in the same doorway. "Come in," I said to her, my tone polite but icy. "Since you are already here, you might as well meet the wife properly." She opened her mouth to say she must have the wrong place, that she had been passing by, that she thought Marquise was sick, but I raised a hand slowly. "If you turn around and walk away right now," I said quietly, "tomorrow morning your parents and your entire office will receive screenshots they will never forget. Step inside and we talk like adults. That is the only mercy I am offering you." Jasmine froze, eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. Then, with stiff legs, she stepped into our foyer. I closed the door with a soft click. The three of us stood there for a breathless second, an unwilling triangle. Then I smiled again and gestured toward the living room. "Come sit," I told her. "We have plenty of space." I placed her in the armchair that faced the main couch where Marquise usually sprawled in comfort. Tonight he perched on the edge, shoulders hunched, as though the cushions had become hot coals. Jasmine sat straight, knees together, hands on the cupcake box, twisting the ribbon. I took my place beside my husband, closer to him than he seemed able to bear. "So," I began lightly, "Jasmine, I have heard your name before. Marquise talks about you. He says you are bright and eager and very helpful at work." I turned to look at him with a warm expression that did not reach my eyes. "You did not tell me your intern makes house calls in the evening with dessert. That is dedication." Marquise swallowed and said nothing. Jasmine tried to rally. I heard he was sick," she muttered. "Someone said his stomach was acting up again, and I was nearby. I thought I would drop this off and then go." Her voice shook on the last word. It was a flimsy story, and we all knew it. The security gate downstairs, the long drive, the message on the phone, all of it stood against her. "How thoughtful," I said softly. His wife, who sleeps next to him every night, had not heard that he was feeling so bad. Yet you, an intern, know all about his stomach. Does he discuss his aches and pains with you during team meetings? I tilted my head. Or does that come up more when you two are alone? The color in her face deepened to a painful red. I stood without waiting for an answer. "You must be thirsty," I said. "Let me get you something to drink." In the kitchen, I opened the cabinet that held the good crystal glasses and looked at them for a moment. Then I reached instead for a flimsy plastic cup from the bottom shelf, filled it with tap water, and set it on a tray. For myself and Marquise, I poured hot green tea into our finest porcelain cups, saucers ringing soft against the glass coffee table when I returned. Jasmine stared at the plastic cup in front of her, sitting between the shining gold-rimmed china like an intruder. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She understood the message. I knew she did. I settled back beside my husband, slipping my arm through his and resting my head on his shoulder in an affectionate gesture that felt like a staged photograph. His muscles tightened under my palm. "How is the internship going?" I asked conversationally. "Is your supervisor very demanding?" Jasmine swallowed some water and tried to smile. "He expects a lot," she said. "But he teaches a lot too." Her eyes darted toward Marquise, looking for a sign that he would protect her. All she got was his downward stare at the carpet. I changed the subject smoothly. "Marquise and I are planning a trip to Maui next month," I said, my tone bright. "We have been saving for it, and we have almost decided on a lake house in the Blue Ridge Mountains to fix up, somewhere quiet where we can plant a garden and bring our parents for long weekends. We went to see a property last week. Remember Marquise?" I asked, looking at him directly. He nodded, throat working. I continued, keeping my voice light and full of future. "My parents promised to help with the renovations. They want to gift us $15,000 as an early gift for their future grandchild. We agreed that next year would be the perfect time to try for a baby, did we not?" The word baby hung in the air, thick with implication. I turned to Jasmine. "Do you not think that is a wonderful plan?" I asked. Her hand jerked, and the teaspoon she had been gripping fell onto the saucer with a sharp clink. She bent quickly to pick it up, hair falling over her face to hide the anguish there. "Yes," she whispered. "I am sure you will be very happy." The forced blessing sounded like something heavy being dragged over broken glass. I let the silence stretch, then set my teacup down with deliberate care. "You know, Jasmine," I said, almost musingly, "the world is complicated. There are so many stories now about supervisors crossing lines with interns, people misusing company funds, private lives spilling into professional ones. I sometimes look at Marquise's work emails when he asks me to help with scheduling. That is how I see his messages. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw both of them tense. I continued, tone still calm. Recently, I saw a conversation from someone whose number I did not recognize at first. Very affectionate messages. Very familiar. The most recent one said, "I miss you." I let the words fall slowly, like drops of acid. Imagine my surprise, standing right there in the kitchen while my husband cooked for me. Jasmine's chest rose and fell fast. She stared at me as if the walls were closing in. Marquise finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Sierra, please," he said. "We can talk about this later." I turned my head to look at him, smiling faintly. "No," I said. "We will talk about this in front of the person who thought she could walk into my home after sending that message." I shifted my gaze back to Jasmine. "You must have been very confident when you got the reply telling you to come over," I said. "I imagine you read 'My wife is not home today' and felt very special. You probably chose that dress carefully, and that lipstick." My eyes flicked to the cupcake box on the table. "You brought dessert, and you thought you were the main course." Her hands began to shake so badly, she had to set the plastic cup down. "I did not know," she whispered. "I swear I did not know she would be here." I nodded once. "I know," I said softly. "You thought I would be gone. You believed his lies. That is almost the only thing you and I have in common." It was enough. Jasmine stood abruptly, nearly knocking her cup over. "I am sorry," she said in a rush. "I really have to go. My mother just texted me. She needs me home." The excuse was weak, but she clung to it the way a person clings to a floating board in deep water. She grabbed her purse. The cupcake box remained forgotten on the coffee table. Marquise shifted like he might follow her, maybe walk her to the door, maybe whisper some last apology. I pressed my fingers into his thigh, hard enough to make him flinch. He stayed seated. I rose and walked Jasmine to the front door, not hurried, not angry, just composed. She struggled with her shoes, fumbling with the strap until she had to lean on the wall. "Jasmine," I said quietly when she finally straightened. She turned, eyes glossy, afraid I might scream or grab her or make a scene in the hallway. Instead, I leaned in so only she could hear. "Next time you decide to visit someone's husband," I murmured, Make sure you understand whose name is on the lease. And remember, Marquise's wife is not always out of the house. Her breath hitched. She nodded rapidly, then fled toward the elevator without looking back. I watched the elevator doors close around her and felt a faint, bitter satisfaction. One problem had just learned her lesson. The larger problem sat in my living room, hands clasped, staring at the floor. I closed the door more sharply than necessary. The sound of the lock sliding into place echoed like a gavel in a courtroom. When I stepped back into the living room, Marquise looked like a man whose disguise had been ripped off. He started speaking as soon as he saw my face. "Sierra, it is not what you think," he said quickly. "She is just an intern who got the wrong idea. I never asked her to come here. I would never disrespect you like that." His voice cracked on the last word. Without a word, I picked up his phone from the couch and hurled it down on the glass coffee table. The screen shattered, cracks spiderwebbing out in all directions. Marquise jumped as if I had struck him. "Explain yourself," I said evenly. "The message telling her to come? I sent it. Did you really believe I would see I miss you and stay ignorant?" His mouth opened and closed, no sound coming for a moment. Then he stammered, "It was just texting. I got carried away. I thought it was harmless. I swear to you we did not." I raised my hand again, and he stopped. "Do not humiliate yourself with half-truths," I said. "You jump when the doorbell rings, she knows your medical issues, you send her money, and you let her think my home is a place she can casually enter. I have eyes. I have a brain. I have proof." I went to my purse, took out the envelope I had prepared, and tossed the contents onto the table. Bank statements fluttered across the broken glass like fallen leaves. He picked one up with shaking fingers. His eyes scanned the highlighted lines. Transfers with Jasmine's name beside them, notes circled in red. When he reached the $1,500 birthday gift, his shoulders slumped. "You bought her a $1,500 birthday gift," I said quietly. "For my last birthday, you told me money was tight." I dropped another sheet in front of him. Screenshots from his messaging app on his tablet, which he had forgotten to log out of. Little hearts, lunch dates, late-night movie plans. One image was of 2 movie tickets from a Thursday night he had sworn was a client dinner. "You lied to my face," I said. Over and over. Marquise covered his face with his hands. "I am sorry," he said, voice breaking. "I was stupid. It did not mean anything. I do not even know why I did it. Please, Sierra. I will end it. I will change jobs. I will do whatever it takes. Do not throw us away." He slid off the couch onto his knees in front of me, grabbing at my wrists. I pulled away and walked into the kitchen. The pot of oxtail still sat on the stove, heavy and fragrant. I lifted it with both hands, carried it to the trash, and poured the entire contents into the bin. Meat, bones, gravy, all of it. The rich smell rose up, now mixed with the sour scent of garbage. Marquise stood in the doorway, horror on his face. "My love for you was like this stew," I told him, looking into the trash can. "It took time and care to build it, and it used to taste like home. Once it is contaminated, it is just garbage. And I do not eat garbage." The words came out flat, almost calm. They felt true in my bones. Whatever part of my heart had believed in him had been scraped clean. That afternoon I had already packed a suitcase and left it in our closet. I went to the bedroom now, pulled it out, and began adding a few more clothes, my important documents, the jewelry that was mine alone. I did not rush. There was a steady rhythm to folding and zipping and closing. Behind me, I could hear him pacing the hallway, calling my name, begging, bargaining. I rolled the suitcase into the living room and set one more piece of paper on the table. A copy of the promissory note for the $40,000 my parents had loaned us for the condo renovation, along with the receipts in my father's name. "When we sell this place," I said, "that debt is the first thing that gets paid. Then we will split what is left. The title is in both our names, but I have no desire to keep anything that has been soaked in your lies." That night, I went to stay with my best friend, Felicia, who lived in Midtown. She met me downstairs in her lobby, eyes searching my face, and pulled me into a hug that said everything words could not. In her apartment, she sat me at her kitchen table, poured me tea, and told me to start from the beginning. I recounted it all. The message, the reply, the long evening, the humiliation, the confrontation, the stew in the trash. Felicia listened, jaw clenching tighter with each new detail. "You handled that better than most judges I know," she said when I finished. Felicia was not just my friend. She was a well-known family law attorney. "But we are not done. If you will not respect the vows, he will at least respect consequences. She gathered the papers I had brought and made a neat stack. We will file for divorce. And before that, we are going to make sure his behavior at work is documented where it matters. Over the weekend, we organized every piece of evidence. Bank records into one folder, screenshots into another, dates matched with calendar entries and late nights he had claimed were client dinners. Felicia drafted a precise email under my name, addressed to the company's chief executive officer, the human resources director, and the legal department. The subject line was simple and sharp. Report of code of conduct violations and inappropriate relationship between supervisor and intern. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, Felicia sat beside me as I logged into my email on her laptop. We read the message one last time. There were no insults, no dramatic adjectives. Just facts, dates, amounts, and attachments. The 10-megabyte file contained copies of the texts, the transfers, the late-night movie tickets, even a photo of the long brown hair I had found on the passenger seat of his car when my own hair was short and dark. "You are sure?" Felicia asked quietly. I nodded. I clicked send. A small notification popped up. "Your message has been sent." That tiny line closed one chapter of my life as cleanly as a slammed door. After that, there was nothing to do but wait. I did not wait very long. By midday, a former coworker of mine who also worked at Marquise's company texted me, her messages tumbling over each other. "Girl, something just blew up here," she wrote. Human resources pulled him, and that in turn into separate meetings. People are whispering in every hallway. By the end of the week, it was official. Human resources had discovered he had been using the corporate card and filing false meal receipts for his outings with Jasmine. He was escorted out of the building with a box of his things, while people whispered behind cubicle walls. The official notice cited serious violations of professional ethics and conduct. He did not just lose his job. He lost the glossy reputation he had worked a decade to build. Jasmine's fall was just as swift. Her internship was terminated for breaching the company's conduct policies and damaging the work environment. The same co-workers who had once flocked around her disappeared. She packed her belongings with swollen eyes while the office buzzed with rumors about the intern who had shown up at her supervisor's home at night. By the time she stepped onto the sidewalk with her cardboard box, she had learned exactly how quickly admiration can turn into contempt. Marquise's calls and messages to me multiplied. At first he pleaded, asking me to talk to his employer, to say it was all a misunderstanding. When I did not respond, the tone shifted to accusations of cruelty and revenge. His mother called too, devastated, saying a wife should overlook the mistakes of a man to keep the family together. I listened once, calmly explained that I would not live with someone who had betrayed me, and then I blocked every number connected to his family. 2 months later, we faced each other again in court. Marquise looked thinner, older, the shine gone from his eyes. I sat beside Felicia, who spoke firmly and clearly on my behalf, presenting the documentation of his affair when it became necessary. There were no dramatic outbursts. There was only the steady rhythm of the legal process, moving us toward the end of our marriage. The hardest part for him was the division of assets. The condo he had once been so proud of had already gone on the market because he could not keep up with the mortgage. The judge accepted the agreement Felicia had negotiated. The bank loan would be paid, my parents' $40,000 would be returned in full, and he and I would split what remained. He signed the divorce papers with a trembling hand. I signed with a hand that did not shake at all. With my share of the money and my own salary, I bought a smaller condo in a quieter part of Atlanta, lined with trees and old brick buildings. I chose every piece of furniture myself, soft colors, clean lines, nothing flashy. The first time I sat on my new balcony with a glass of red wine, watching the city lights blink against the dark sky, I felt something I had not felt in months, peace. Felicia came over that night, lifted her own glass, and said, "To your freedom, Sierra. You earned it." My phone buzzed on the table beside us, a notification of my recent promotion to team lead at my own company. The long hours I had thrown myself into at work had not erased the past, but they had given it distance. Later that evening, I opened a message from a woman I did not know, someone who had heard Felicia tell an anonymous version of my story in a support group. She thanked me for having the courage to leave, said it had helped her find her own. I sat there on the balcony, the city humming softly below, and let the words sink in. My pain had not been a waste. It had turned into something with weight and shape, something that might help someone else walk out of a door and not look back. The air was cool against my face, and the wine left a bittersweet trail down my throat. My name is Sierra. I am 32 years old, single, independent, and genuinely happy. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.